My name is Freddie Smith, and I'm from around Boise, Idaho. Been out in Idaho in the West for about since early 90s, so about 30 years. And how I got into insulators is an interesting story. My dear friend Paul Hahn, who you're probably going to see here soon, asked me once if I wanted to go out on a trip to the desert just to walk around. And I said, well, yeah, I can spend a weekend out in the desert. Little did I know that the desert that he wanted to go look at was actually an EC&M line. And we were significantly off main roads, out in the middle of nowhere in southeast Oregon, and walking along some old trails. And amazingly enough, we did find one EC&M that trip. So on our very first trip out, we found a pristine EC&M. I was kind of, because I didn't even think about insulators as a collecting hobby, I was looking more for kind of embossed whiskey bottles, because this was an old stagecoach route that went from Winnemucca or Chico, California, up to Silver City, Idaho. And I think Paul told me that this particular EC&M line was established in 1874. So we know that it was old. Paul, to my wife's dismay, really got me hooked on the hobby. And from then on, I started collecting, I tried to start collecting all insulators when I first got into the hobby, and I found out that that could be horribly expensive. And since I was fairly new to the hobby, having only started a little more than 10 years ago, I needed to find a particular insulator or a style of insulator that I would find in a lot of color and wouldn't break the bank all the time. And so I focused on diamond 102s. And since that time, I've made lots of connections with some folks in Canada and with Ron Uhas, because he's close to Canada, where there's a lot of 102s available. And I've established a fair amount of collection at this time, probably 13 or 1400 diamond 102s. And it's been fantastic hobby to get into. It's very, very, very interesting. Lots of different variety, lots of different colors, and just amazed at the friendships that I've established during this hobby. Ron, especially, and Jim McLeod, especially, and Paul, they've all been great progenitors of my collecting hobby. And my wife has finally accepted it, and I've dedicated one room in my house to a significant display of insulators, and it makes it very entertaining. So I had to find a couple other ways to kind of finance this hobby. So I started getting interested in making display units that would highlight all the particular features of insulators. And so happens at the time that I was getting into the insulator hobby, LED revolution was going on. So we were starting to mix between incandescent and LED type lighting, and LED lighting gave the advantage of not having much heat, but still giving you a pretty bright light. So I started making baselit cabinets, and eventually moved into backlit cabinets as well. And I make those cabinets and sell them at the shows that we go to help augment my habits, so to speak. Oh, I love coming to shows. I mean, Paul and I, Paul's still working, I'm retired. And so we can only go to a few shows a year. We always try to go to the Spokane show, the Spud Fest up at Spokane with the Burger Brothers. We always go to the Bend show, and we always come up here to the Big Sky show. Those are the main shows that we always go to. And if the national show's out in the West somewhere, then we try to go to that. We've been to the Colorado Springs one, the Kansas City one, and more recently the one in Logan. Didn't make the New Mexico show, which which was sad, but we like going to the shows. We love the camaraderie of the community. Everybody's very friendly. We're always impressed by the trust that the community has. It's incredible that people will put out thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars worth of insulators and leave them on the table and trust that everybody's going to respect their space and just cover it up at night with a sheet or a blanket or something, and then leave it overnight and come back the next day and everything's just as it was. It's an amazing feature of this community that you have to have absolute trust in all your compatriots in this. It's always fun coming to the shows and seeing who shows up. I mean, not only is the standard people that show up, the collectors and the salespeople, but the people that are just driving by and will come in and start getting interested in the hobby itself. So we always enjoy that aspect of it and try to help people understand what they're getting into. Because I understand how much work like Jim and Ron and Paul put into educating me and how I do this hobby. So very, very happy with that kind of friendship and trust.